this is about Christian dating or regular dating, dating in your 30s, dating in your 20s, teens, or if you just got divorced. Why do people invest their time in dating? Well, the simple answer, and I really want to start this episode off strong, is because dating is hard. Dating is really hard. What do I mean when dating is hard? But first of all, that's an understatement almost in this specific subject. Welcome to the Free and Redeem podcast. I am your host, Simon Andrade, and here on this specific show, we tackle over key topics that every single Christian struggles with. We bring in guests, we bring in godly wisdom, and more importantly, we bring in scriptures in the Bible to help you enhance your walk with God, bring in confidence, and put you into the direction of freedom and grace by the power of the Holy Spirit. If you're new to this platform, I encourage you to subscribe. With all that being said, guys, let's get started with today's episode. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Hope you guys have been doing great, have been having an amazing weekend so far. I am really excited about today's episode. I feel like today's episode, there is a lot to talk about, but hope you guys have been enjoying the content so far. Really working on some new techniques and approaches to allow me to do as much time as I can with content, because there is a lot of content I want to release in this series that we are in. But as you know, the series that we are in is in the concept of dating, the struggles of dating. Now, a question that a lot of people have been asking for quite some time is, why do people invest a lot of their time in dating? And not so much like trying to be in a relationship. That's not necessarily what I mean, but more or less in the terms of investing their time as in listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, watching movies, maybe even buying courses, even in church today. Very recently, there was a young adults group that I attended a few weeks ago back in February. And obviously, since February is the time for Valentine's Day, the series was about dating. And let me tell you, that whole entire congregation with young people, it was packed, because almost, I would say 85% of those people, maybe even myself including, were single. And just a lot of people were curious of what needed to be said, in the terms of Christian dating. And regardless if this is about Christian dating or regular dating, dating in your 30s, dating in your 20s, teens, or if you just got divorced, why do people invest their time in dating? Well, the simple answer, and I really want to start this episode off strong, is because dating is hard. Dating is really hard. What do I mean when dating is hard? But first of all, that's an understatement almost in this specific subject. Everybody, I don't care who you are, has had their struggles in dating at some point in their life, maybe even currently to this day are having their struggles when it comes to dating another person. But what's the main reason why this may be the case? Well, let me just say this. The reason why dating is hard is because, let me tell you, it's a specific social moment in your life where your feelings towards another person is being expressed. And as simple as it may be, when you are interacting with a person, in this case, we're talking about the opposite sex or opposite gender, a guy and a girl, when people express their feelings, sometimes they realize maybe those feelings are not on the same page. And this is even the case with people who end up getting married. It's like an ongoing thing, as if like their dating phase is still kind of going on a little bit in their marriage. But let me just say this, dating is so much more than just a man and a woman, or boy and a girl, young man, young woman, whatever you want to say, falling head over heels for each other. They become very emotionally, maybe even physically intimate. And then before you know it, when it comes to the struggles, the relationship either goes toxic, it gets a little bit sour, there's some things that kind of go on. And, sometimes the unfortunate truth about that is people end up getting their heart broken. They become hurt, rejected, bitter. And all this stuff, it's very relatable, especially, for those who have been in a serious relationship before. But in today's episode, we're going to take it a little bit different. We're going to take a different approach and maybe talk about a subject that does have a very common, that is very common today. I feel like a lot of people are in this situation, but I think the toughest truth is a lot of people don't really know how to deal with it when they're in this situation when in dating. Most of the time, they don't really know where they went wrong. And when I say dating is so much more than a guy and a girl falling head over heels for each other, there's a more extremely painful way people can experience that. In this case, basically, let's just picture this scenario. I'm going to use it in the approach of a guy. A guy and a girl, they get close, they connect, they talk, their conversations are really good. And then, things kind of progress. The guy really starts to convince himself that he likes this girl, and who knows, maybe really wants to pursue her as his girlfriend, but doesn't really know how to tell her. And maybe there's some things he knows about her. They could be red flags, but he continues to pursue her. And then the day he really thinks about telling her how he feels about her, she utters these words, maybe actually one word, that literally is like stabbing someone in the heart and almost just ripping it right out at the same time. It's, "You've been such a good friend to me," or, "Man, I really just would like for us to be friends. You're such an amazing friend. And let me tell you, this guy what's going through, let's just say this pretend scenario, the guy must be feeling completely burnt out, completely shocked, feeling like his heart is shattered. Why? The girl just simply said a simple statement. You're a good friend. Is it wrong to say that to somebody? Why is it heartbreaking? Well, this is why in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the friend zone. The friend zone is basically a common scenario that I would say a lot, and I do mean a lot of people in different types of settings, different types of circumstances are facing today. Rather if it's in school, if it's in church, if it's at a job, whatever it may be, somehow, some way, we have all been through this at some point in our life where we have really liked somebody who we develop a close connection with. We see them a lot in social settings, maybe even have some alone time with them. And then we actually find out that the feelings that we have for them, the crush that we have for them, they necessarily don't have those same feelings back. And especially, it's more painful when we actually find out that they may even like somebody else in the social group. They may even like your friend. That they're dating other people, and they may not even have the intention of dating you. I almost want to say this is dating's most harshest rejection. Why is that? Because let me just say this about the friend zone. The reason why the friend zone is so painful for a lot of people today is because when you're in a serious relationship with somebody, yes, people do experience heartbreak. Rather if they get cheated on, they get emotionally or physically abused. And, as hard as it is to move on from those relationships within itself, I think the tormenting side for people who are put in this situation is just that one thought that kind of stays with them is what it would like to be in a relationship with them that they never really got to experience, especially if feelings are out and that person doesn't take it well. And in today's episode, I really want to talk about why this is the case for a lot of people. Because it could be a really troubling spot to be put in the friend zone, but it's even in a more harsher spot when that person you really like doesn't really know that you like them, or if they do find out that you like them, it's really hard to be around them after that. The fact things are not going to happen between you and this other person. So in today's episode, I really want to talk about, and I'm going to use a little bit of a biblical perspective in this specific subject, but I want to talk about 3 common reasons why you may be in the friend zone today. Why you are not in a relationship, not even dating the person you really like. This is very easy, simple psychological stuff, but I really want you to pay attention to these points because let me tell you, I've been through this experience as well. And understanding these points, let me tell you, comes from extreme experience, at least in my life and what I've even seen with some friends or other people. So the number one reason, or I would say the first straight to the point reason of why you may be in the friend zone today is because number one, I like to really use this point very loosely, but it's you're too quiet. And you can see in parentheses, I put no communication. What do I mean by saying no communication or you're too quiet? Well, let me start off by asking you this. What is the difference between having a friend versus having a boyfriend/girlfriend? There's maybe a lot of reasons we can come up with here, but let me tell you the main difference between those two types of relationships is you don't necessarily have to communicate to somebody that they're your friend. You don't. Am I right? Think about it. If you, let's say, are a guy or a girl listening, let's say, of course, I'm going to use analogy, but when you hang out with people, let's say from a guy to guy or girl to girl approach, let's say y'all meet at church, you meet this person, you meet, the same person, type of gender, same sex at church, school, work, whatever it may be. You naturally build a connection with them. You hang out with other friends or other people. Maybe from a guy to guy, you guys go play basketball, you work out, maybe you go grab lunch, something like that. How weird does it sound when you hang out with somebody, you talk to them for a certain amount of time, and then you ask them, hey, I really like hanging out with you. Do you want to be my friend? I mean, doesn't that sound a little bit weird? Doesn't that sound a little bit strange in a way? Why is that? Because naturally, it's just the way friendship works. Friendship really just comes out of the connection you have with somebody. And let's say I meet a guy, a guy who we work out, we play basketball, we do bromance kind of stuff, and someone were to say, hey, who's that guy you've been hanging out with recently? My first reaction would probably be, that's my friend. And if it's that simple in the terms of friendship, how is that any different from a guy to girl approach? That's the biggest problem I feel like a lot of people have today when it comes to dating, is they approach dating as if it's a friendship. They think that if they just surround themselves with the person long enough, that somehow, some way things are just going to naturally change. But let me say this, every romantic relationship starts with some form of communication. And let me tell you, probably 95% of it is verbal. Maybe a 5% range, very small percentage of it is nonverbal. I mean, I've seen some points in my life, very rare points, where I've seen friends of mine, and even at one point myself, where, somehow, some way I ended, you just date someone, you don't really ask to be their girlfriend or boyfriend, but somehow it just ends up happening. But let me tell you something, communication is very key in serious relationships or even dating relationships, people that you meet. And there is so many big reasons for that. But let me just say this, the biggest reason why people struggle with this is because everyone in a romantic relationship, it's like most cases, we don't know how to really express our feelings. There's big differences or big challenges that people face in dating when it comes to expressing their feelings towards another person. There could be a lot of reasons, and it's so many words, it's like built up anxiety. And let's say in this case, I'm going to talk about the guys, the guys who may be listening to this episode. We approach women as if like we're trying to be friends with them. Now, in no way am I saying we shouldn't be friends with girls, or, we shouldn't start off as friends with a girl. But let me just say this, if you like a girl, I think the biggest mistake most men make is we hide our feelings. We keep our feelings deep inside, and we continue to be around a girl that we like. We enjoy their company, we understand their characteristics, and we really start to like them in a very strong romantic way. But the biggest problem with this is, let me tell you something, holding back feelings only hurts you more as a person, because so much curiosity runs, like, do they like me? Do they feel the same way? And when there's no communication, it could be extremely heartbreaking for you. And in so many words, it could be confusing for her, where she has no idea how you feel, doesn't understand maybe the certain behaviors that you're giving. And all it really does is lead you into a big emotional roller coaster. And this is why, let me tell you something, I understand it's really difficult to communicate to somebody that you like them. But sometimes the most simple things that are done, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like people overthink dating almost 100% of the time, especially guys, when it comes to the concept of asking a girl out. And the reason why I feel like this is the case is because we fear rejection so much. But let's expand that a little bit. Sometimes we think if we ask a girl out, we're just afraid of her reaction. We're afraid, oh my gosh, like what if she thinks I'm weird? But let me tell you something, sometimes transparency is probably the most healthiest thing you could do. And let me tell you, it takes practice, it takes work, and yes, it does take confidence. Sometimes, let me just say this, you do not have to tell somebody, and in this case, I'm talking to a guy, you don't have to tell the girl everything. You don't have to tell her 100% what's going on in your heart about her. No, you do not have to tell her, oh my gosh, I just want to tell you, I love you so much. I just feel like you're my everything, especially if you're not even dating, haven't even been on one date. But just simply say, show curiosity. Say, hey, look, I really like our conversations. I like how, really enjoy your company. I was really hoping maybe we can go grab some dinner sometime. Maybe I can grab your number if you're free this Saturday. Simple statements like that is very straightforward and direct and transparent. Sometimes don't even say, hey, I want to hang out with you. Say, hey, look, I would really like to take you out for dinner. Would you be open for a dinner date this coming Friday? Simple things like that could really strike up an interest in her where she could say, wow, this guy really had the guts to talk to me and ask me out. But let me tell you something about the friend zone. In this case, the whole entire rejection standpoint of it is communication doesn't work all the time. But let me tell you what communication does do. Communication gets your feelings out. And even if that person doesn't feel the same way about you, at least it saves you and that other person the time. And most times people tell their feelings too late. And all it really does is make them more hurt. And it makes the person more confused, maybe even more upset. Like, oh my gosh, why didn't you talk to me about this? And that's the case with the friend zone today. A lot of people don't fully know how to communicate because they're too quiet. But why do they feel that extreme heartbreak? Why do they feel like they're like almost like they missed something? Well, number two is because I like to use it this way. You're too available. There's a simple term I really want to use, but I'm just going to use this simple analogy actually. A psychological way that we act, or anyone, I would say, I mean, guys and girls, maybe there's different behaviors, but I would say a very common behavior everyone really has when they have a crush on somebody. And come on, we can even look back at this when we had a crush on somebody in elementary school. We've all been there before, right? When you have a crush on someone, a common psychological behavior is you constantly want to be around them. You constantly want to find your time with them, spend time with them as much as you can. And you put a lot, it's just like you really want to put time into this person. Sometimes, come on, when you're in elementary school, I mean, just the thought of telling your crush you like them can just scares the crap out of you. I get that. But let me just say it like this. Time is valuable. That's the simple thing I really want to say. Time is valuable. Your time as a person is extremely valuable, especially in the relationships that you put into it. And what I really just want to say, this may be a little bit a tough, straightforward thing to say, but stop wasting your time on someone who is not emotionally available for you. Now, I use that term, you're too available, and stop wasting your time on someone who is unavailable. What do I mean by this? Well, when we really like somebody and we put a lot of time in trying to spend time with them and everything, sometimes we really have to ask ourselves the question, are we wasting time? Common examples I could really give about this is I have seen guys really put in a lot of time with a girl they've liked, and I could even say I am guilty of this as well. Times like where you help her out with errands, you do favors for her, you try to meet her at every social event, and it's like, hey, if you find out she's going to the gym, oh, I'm going to try to show up at this time and see if she's there. And again, you got to remember the first point, but you avoid to do any type of communication with her. You avoid to do anything, to form some sort of interest or express some form of interest to her. And all it really does is just like you're putting too much available time on somebody, and they're not really giving you that time back. And it's, in a way, it could be really hard. And I've even gone as far as seeing guys who really like a girl, and they somehow, some way get alone time with her. But I think it's even moments at times like that where they're alone with her, where they actually realize, without even the girl really saying it, that they're actually in the friend zone. When the girl starts talking about the toxic relationship she's in, or talking about her current boyfriend, or talking about other things, it's just like when they're alone, there's no romantic connection, there's no romantic chemistry. But yet the guys still stick around. Why is that? Because they think if they make themselves available to her or available to the girl at a specific time, or how much time they put in, they think somehow they're going to get something back. And this is not the case when it comes to dating. When it comes to expressing interest in somebody, all it really does is just, I'll just say it, you're wasting time. And when you are wasting your time with somebody, and this is the worst one I've really seen, wasting your time with somebody who right now currently is in a serious relationship, or maybe in a toxic relationship, and you're making as much time with them hoping that they would just crack and they'll notice something. All I am saying is you are setting yourself up for danger. You're flirting with disaster. Some very common scriptures I really want to use for someone who may need to talk about this, because the Bible doesn't fully talk about the friend zone too much, but I feel like these scriptures could really speak life to you in this situation. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 23, really spot on verse. It says, the heart of the wise makes their mouth prudent, and their lips promote instruction. Also in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 16, it says, be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most out of every opportunity, because the days are evil. In so many words, it's like our time is valuable, and what we say and how we approach things, that is valuable as well. And when you make yourself too available to somebody, all I could say is it does not get you the results that you want. And I think that's why a lot of people are so confused of where they went wrong when they find out they're in the friend zone, is how much time were you really putting on this person? You know, one of the things, if you're a guy and you really want to know something about the difference between pursuing a girl versus chasing a girl, is pursuing a girl is giving yourself the time, and then it's like understanding if it's worth the time. If the girl does respond and engage with your pursuit, you continue to pursue. But if the girl shows red flags, she closes the door with non-interest, and like saying things like, oh, I have a boyfriend, or talks to you about other guys that she likes, or even tries to hook you up with other guys, you continue to chase. You continue to spend time and put as much time with this girl because you hope that she changes her mind about you. Let me tell you, hard pill to swallow, she's not going to change her mind about you. She's not. I know that's a very hard thing to hear, but this is why the third and final reason I really want to get people to understand, and I'll kind of share this story and then I'll close here, is the reason why you are in the friend zone and you're not getting the result that you wanted from that person is because number 3 is you're too close. You're too close. You know, let me just say this. This is a very simple quote I can give. Most people who break our hearts are not complete strangers, but it's the closest people in our life that are vulnerable to breaking our hearts. Getting close to a crush without clarity of where the relationship is going, you know, where the friendship is going, will only result in deep heartbreak. When you get too close to somebody in a very friendship-like way and you allow those romantic feelings to build, I will promise you it will just result in heartbreak when you actually realize that it's not the way you really wanted it to be. And when we dedicate our heart to someone we fall deeply in love with, we become so attached to the idea of them. Attachments are real. And I feel like sometimes people approach their crushes in a very anxious type of way, where we just dedicate all their time and we just idolize how they are, who they are as a person. And we start to just look at their physical traits or their good personality traits. And we allow this to kind of just build into this fantasy level about them, where they just become this perfect person, this person that will just meet your romantic, your emotional, your spiritual, even your physical needs. And you don't really fully see the person for who they are. Not to say they're a terrible person. I mean, sometimes people, and I will say this in some cases, I even did an episode on it. Check it out. And the link will be in the description about leading you on. Sometimes people who friend zone other people, they'll lead them on intentionally, but that's a separate subject, which I already covered. But when you're too close to somebody romantically, let me just say, building a fantasy life about them will get you nowhere. Matter of fact, it's like you're setting yourself up for a heartbreak. It's almost like you're preparing for the heartbreak, because fantasizing over someone just creates a great amount of mistakes that you'll make in this relationship. You'll start misreading signals. You'll start you'll start mistaking non-interest for interest. Common examples could be things like, she doesn't text you back, she ghosts you, but yet she'll still make time or somehow meet up with you at a social setting. In your mind, oh, she's actually trying to talk to me. You'll make mistakes like that. You'll start making red flags into green flags. If this person is flirting with you or showing some sort of attention to you, even though they have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you'll try to make that a green flag. Even though that's a clear red flag, they're willing to mess around with somebody else behind their boyfriend, girlfriend, or even spouse's back. You'll start being in denial about the person, even if they are unintentionally hurting you. People could tell you things like, hey, I just don't think this is the right relationship for you. I think you should stop wasting your time. You'll start being in denial, like, no, they're not like that. They're, they'll change. They'll be this certain way. And the biggest lie I think a lot of people face when it comes to being put in the friend zone, or when it comes to people who get attached to people who are in the friend zone, is they start believing that they're deeply in love with their crush. In love. Yet most people today don't really fully know what it means to be in love with somebody. Let me tell you something, and I've read this 1,000 times. Even Dr. Annalie Alexander said this in the trauma bonding book that she wrote. She says, over obsessing over somebody, constantly thinking about them and wanting to be around them is not love. It's an emotional wound. It's an emotional attachment wound that you are naturally attaching to people you develop a crush on. Simple and straight to the point fact. And to really love somebody, the Bible clearly says it. I mean, 1 Corinthians 13, but I really want to read in Song of Solomon 8, verses 6 through 7, where it says, "Set me as your seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm, for love is as strong as death. Its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like a blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love, rivers cannot sweep it away. If someone were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, it would be utterly scorned." In 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 7, it says, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but it rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things." Amen. That is such a great verse, but let me just say it this way. Love is not infatuation. Infatuation says, I need this person. I want this person. Love basically says it this way. I have strong respect for this person. I would love this person as much as I can, but do I fully need him in the long run? Do I fully need him in the long run? Can I survive without him? And sometimes, some way, it's like love, as Jesus even says, love is laying down a life for another friend. Love is making sacrifices, especially the times when you don't want to make the sacrifice. And most of the time, infatuation is a selfish approach, while love is a selfless approach. And let me tell you, love takes some time to develop. And spending time with someone as much as you can without the true intention of dating them is not love. It's building an obsession with them. And in today's episode, I really hope you can fully understand the toxic traits that could really come from being put in the friend zone. And I could even say I've been in this situation myself, constantly making myself available for this person, this one person in my life who I really developed a very strong crush on. But I think the biggest struggle, especially for me as a guy, and something maybe as for the men who are listening, what I've really learned is how important communication could really be. Communication necessarily has not changed my dating life in a way that just results are going to be perfect all the time, but it has changed my dating life as allowing myself to express this emotional, or I like to call it a social muscle. And a lot of times I think when we're put in the friend zone, we start to believe negative things about ourselves, like what's wrong with me? What wasn't good enough about me? I used to believe those lies all the time, but I'm here to tell you that there is nothing wrong with you. If you feel like this is the constant situations that you are finding yourself in, then it's not anything wrong with you, but maybe just some tweaks need to be done if you want to effectively date people you like and are interested in. Learn how to effectively communicate with someone you're interested in. Learn how to understand that your time is valuable, and you are only willing to make it valuable for the people that are interested in you. And you know that love takes time, and it does not mean getting too close to people as fast as you can. And you know that closeness comes over time. And that's all I really want to share from today's episode. What do you think about that? Do you feel like this is what causes people to be put in the friend zone? Let me know in the comments. But once again, don't forget to subscribe, like this content. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode, and God bless.